Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another Straight Up Solo, and in this episode we're going to take a look at the second edition of Great Western Trail, and we're going to look at it from a solo perspective. I'm going to tell you about the solo mode that is, I guess I would say official in this versus in the first edition of this. It did not have a solo mode. So I'll go through that, I'm going to show you how it plays, and then I'll tell you about what I think about it, and we'll see if it's something that you might be interested in. Alright, let's take a look.
And as usual, everyone, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can get my fan base going. Okay, so here is what the solo game looks like about halfway through, maybe just a little bit before halfway. So with the solo mode in this game, you are playing an automa, or the non-beat your own score kind of thing. And so you're getting a full experience with him. He's drawing cards. And when he draws those cards, it tells you exactly what to do as far as movement and what kind of actions that he's going to take. He has buildings that he can build. He has workers that he can put to work. He can get cow cards or cattle cards from the cattle deck like you would, although he does not use a hand of cards, so you don't have to worry about any deck management or anything like that. He also can score bonus cards just like you. And basically what he's going to do is he's going to hustle around this board, taking the shortest path possible, and basically try to, move the game along. He's like a timer in a lot of ways because he's going to go quickly through about as fast as you'd play if you're playing semi-aggressively. It's not like he rushes it too much, but when he goes through, he automatically is going to assign some of these guys, get assigned the bottom row to the board. And then he's not going to collect any money. He's not going to collect any cards or do anything like that. All he's going to do is put his disc on the next city in the track, one by one, okay? And depending on the difficulty level that you choose, easy, medium, or hard, he starts at different spots. So I usually play on the medium or the standard, and he puts up a good fight there. So, that's the kind of interaction you get from him. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about this game if you're not familiar. This game is like a glorified rondel, okay? And I say rondel because you move with your cattleman, or your, whatever you want to say, your herder, pardon me, that's what you want to say. You move around this board following the path, okay? And there's a couple of places that the path may turn off, like you might go down here instead of, or over here, or straight over. Anyway, you're making a big, zigzag loop, and you get to move a specific number of spaces depending on the number of people in the game, plus if you've unlocked the ability to move further. You don't have to move all the spaces. You can stop at different buildings. If you go across something that has a green or a black hand, you actually have to pay in money to pass it. And that could be anything. That could be coming from one of these tiles here that generates you points. Points in this game are denoted by that little shield symbol. It also might be your opponent, okay, that puts those up. And those are tax buildings that you have to pay the bank because he doesn't take any money. So the general gist of this game, though, is that you are trying to herd cattle, doing it through a deck building mechanism. So you can buy better versions of cattle at different spots in the game. And the more cattle ranchers you have, I'd say the cheaper it gets, and the better cattle you can get. Okay, you're also going to build buildings if you want. The buildings are double-sided, and so you kind of have some variety in this game of how you can play. You can actually even mix and match, the A sides and the B sides if you want to come up with some different things. The solo opponent always uses the B side, but you do this in this way, A or B. And you also, so if you want to build buildings, you can have different amounts of engineers that you'll need to be able to build better and better buildings. And then you have businessmen or whatever that run your railroad, and your railroad is over here. And basically what the railroad is doing is going slowly down this track, stopping at stations if you want, where you can put your workers to kind of, get off at that station to be permanently removed from your hand from the game. And when you do that, you'll get a end game bonus tile, and also you'll get some points, and it costs you some money. Also, with the train moving down, it reduces the amount of fees you have to pay when you make a cattle delivery here to Kansas City. So what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to, with your turn, you'll get around this board as best you can, and when you do that, you get to take your cattle herd, which is in your card of hands, and you actually want to have a variety of cattle. So what you do is you'll take each of your unique cattle cards, you'll sum those up, you'll use this as your money and also your travel value. So you see how I've got 2 greens, I've got an orange and 2 blacks. That's not good, okay, because I would actually only be able to use 2, 4, 6. But if I could get rid of one of these pairs over here and here and draw different cards, then maybe I'd get better, better luck, and I'd have a higher number. The number that you have lets you go out to a certain number city, okay? The higher the number, the better. You get victory points for, connecting both of these cities throughout the game, so you'll get points. And that's also how you will upgrade your player board, okay? So depending on which city or station you deliver to, you can put down a white disc over here or the better black disc. And when you do that, you get to do some upgrades and it makes you better, okay? That's the basic gist. The other thing this game does is it has these bonus cards which you can put into your hand. When you play them, you get a one-time action over here, or I guess it's a bonus. And then at the end of the game, you have to fulfill the requirements. And if you do, you get a bunch of points. And if you don't, you lose points. So lots of stuff going on. It's a fairly meaty game. And it does take some time to grasp how to do well in it. But this is the situation you get kind of in a nutshell. So let me just show you a couple of turns. And I'll kind of give you an idea of what it's like for the Automa to do his turn and for me to do mine. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take a turn now. And like I said before, I can move up to 3 spaces. So I could move 1, 2, 3, as you see there. Or I could go 1, 2, 3. Or I could go 1, 2, and 3. Wherever I stop, I will take my action, okay? And I don't have to count any of the spaces that are blank in between, as you saw there. I can never take my action on another player's, on the other guy's board, although what I can do is I can take kind of like I can't remember the specific name of it is, but it's like it's an auxiliary action one time, which is basically doing one of these really small actions, which isn't so great, and so usually you don't want to do those. What you usually want to do is get onto either the neutral board here, or the neutral tile, so you can take these actions, this, and this, or your own right here, which you would build, okay? And sometimes you want to cross these hazards so you can pay some money and get some points, and these are worth points at the end of the game, but they're also help for, I need 2 hazards, for instance, for this bonus card if I was to get the bonus card. So I can move up to 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move, boy, I really like to hire people, but I'm really low on money, unfortunately. I only have $3, and I would be able to get some more money here if I had a white card to discard, but you can see that I don't, okay? Oh, one more thing. If you end up building a building that has, or one of your buildings in these spots that has one of these on the bottom, these little extra actions will allow you to do something, usually discard, in fact always, discard one of your cards and then do something else. And so it helps you cycle your deck, and they call them risk actions, which is kind of funny. I mean, yeah, I guess you were risking it because you're discarding a card, but a lot of times you actually want to discard to get rid of pairs and things like that. All right, so long story short, I don't have enough money to hire, which is unfortunate, but that's because of choices I made earlier in the game. And so what I will end up doing is I will end up jumping ahead, going 1, 2, and I do have a green, and that's actually not bad. It'll help me build some more buildings. I'm going to do that. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to discard my green because it says if I discard a green, I get $2. So let's go ahead and do that. Get the $2. Then I can build one of my buildings, and I can build it up to the level of engineers I have. Well, I only have 1, which is kind of lousy, but that's because I decided to put 1 in the station earlier. I can spend $2 per engineering point and build a building that's worth 1 engineer because that's all I have. Or I could upgrade this building right here and pay the difference because it's already a 1. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build this one right here. And so it's really simple. It costs me 2. And I'm going to build it in this forest location right here. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to build it so I could use this guy later to get some money and such. I'll build it down here. All right, so later when I travel over here, I get access to this selection. So it cost me 2. All right, I didn't spend any cards. I'm sorry, I spent 1 card. So I draw up to my turn limit, or my hand limit, pardon me, which in this case is 5 because I did unlock this earlier, hence my lower money. And then I'm done. And look, see, now I drew a different cattle, which is good because now I'm starting to get rid of my pairs, which I want the variety. Okay, now we go to the Automa, and their turn is quite simple. I flip over a card. Okay, so the person who's built the most buildings, in this case is a tie, he's going to move that many spaces, 1 to 5 spaces. Well, we both built 2 buildings, so he's going to move 2 spaces. He's going to go here 1, and then he's going to go here 2. Again, he's going to take the fastest route he can. Then I'm going to take this action. It's going to say if my rancher is my favored person, and he is because I have more ranchers than anything else, then spend up to $8 to buy cattle. I have 3 ranchers. I want to maximize my victory points to spend up to 8, and I could do it with 3. So this guy can buy another one of these for 3 points, and that would give me, like I said, the 3-point card, and that's really the best he can do right now because he doesn't have enough guys to get the 2 of them, and this doesn't give me as many points. Well, actually it does. It's cheaper, but it doesn't matter because you couldn't go 2 and 1. So it's almost irrelevant what he's going to do. He's just going to jump here. He's going to get that 3 points. At the end of the game, all this is doing is generating him 3 points. And that's it. Now, if I had not had this be the true condition, then it would have been, if I had had this on, the favorite engineer or the businessman, then it wouldn't have done anything. It would just ended his turn, moved and ended his turn. And that's it. So that's how fast it goes. So I go back to my turn now, and I get a choice to move. In this case, I want to start moving my engine. So I'm going to just move 1 space up, and I'm going to spend this 2 card, and that's going to allow me to move my engine 2 spaces forward. 1, 2. Now I could go there, which is good, except I don't have enough guys to discard, so that doesn't help me because I would need employees to put in there to actually activate this. So instead of skipping that turn, or that spot and going down, I'm just going to go 1 and 2. So I'm going to advance further down the track onto the 8 space. Plus, it says if you have a 1, you can discard for 2, which I do. So I'm going to discard for 2. So you're going to be cycling through your hand in the way I just did in your turns and then replacing it. Okay, that's good. And another non-pair. So that's good. That worked out all right. And then we go back to him. And here we go. We do this. Again, happens to move by the number of buildings. So he's going to move 2 spaces. And he's going to go here and then there. Okay? It doesn't matter, by the way, where he goes. He never takes the action where he goes. All he's doing is moving around the board. And then it says, if you are favoring the businessman, move your train. If not, don't do anything. So I'm not going to do anything. All right. And so you can see how fast that goes. The thing I like about this Automa is that it provides enough challenge. It plays well, but it's very easy to use because you're really flipping a card. You're doing something that takes all 15, 20 seconds tops, and that's it. All right, so I've described most of the mechanics. The only mechanic I didn't describe is what happens when you get to Kansas City in detail. And I'll tell you that. Basically what happens is you have to choose which one of these 2 people you're going to put out on the board. In this case, these are bandits, so they're going to go here. There's really no difference in the choice, almost. The only difference would be if you needed one type of bandit or another. For instance, I need an orange bandit to fulfill this, so I would pick the orange one. And then I would also be able to choose one of the other employee, and this would tick this down. And ultimately what this does is this determines the labor market, which is full because we haven't been hiring a lot. You do that also for here, for number 3. And at the end of the game's going to end when this comes off the board. Then that's going to trigger the last turn for that person, then everybody else gets 1 turn, and then the game's going to be over. So after doing those 3 things here, like I said, you're going to do your non-pair cards, and that's going to add up to a specific amount. Also, you can add these certificates that you have that you can get for different things. For instance, let's see. Here we go. So this is an action, for instance. You could discard a bonus card from your hand, and in doing so, then you could move your certificate token down to generate extra money. When you get that money, you're going to take the cash. That amount is going to be how far you can move down here. So let's say I generated a total of, well, let's say I finished right now. So if I finish right now, I'd have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I wouldn't get to score this one because it's a pair. So I'd have 7, and I have no certificates. So that means I would get $7 from the bank, and I'd be able to deliver to Bloomington over here, which I've already delivered to before, and you can deliver again. It doesn't really help you so much. Maybe I'd fall back and go to St. Louis to try to get this in the spot. But I wouldn't be able to go to Peoria, which is unfortunate because I haven't delivered there. And so those are the kinds of things you're trying to figure out. Once you figure out how much you're going or where you're going to deliver, then if there is any of these, if it's in front of your train, you have to pay $1 per X that's in the way. And that's about the size of it, folks. So you're going to go through the game maybe 5 to 7 loops, okay? Which is going to take you, about an hour, hour and a half. Depends on how fast you play. And then when the game's over, you do count the points for yourself. You count the points for the Automa player, and that's it. And then you figure it out, see who won. Okay, so let me tell you about what I think about the game in general, and then you can make a decision if it's for you or not.
All right, so that is the second edition solo mode for Great Western Trail. So I'll say a couple things. I actually had the first edition of this game a long time ago. Ended up selling it because it didn't have an official solo mode. I should have probably kept it and printed out the solo mode because I think the two are very similar. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's highly similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same. But if you already have the original, before you run out and buy the second edition, you may want to consider just checking out printing the solo mode, seeing if that will suffice. Because I think the similarities in the game, they changed the artwork, they added a variant, so they've got these cows here that you can actually level up a little bit. That's kind of minor. And then they changed around some of the destinations. They actually made it a little bit more thematic, where you're going from Kansas City to Chicago or New York, or those, to the Midwest, which is actually more along the lines of what really happened, I believe. I wasn't there, and I'm not a perfect history buff, but usually they raise cattle in the Great Plains and in the central region of the U.S., and then they moved it by train to these big, huge areas in these large cities where they basically, butchered them and then shipped them on ships and other places to the rest of the Midwest. So that's kind of the way that the theme works a little better. And then they changed some other things, which I'm not going to get into. They're not really gameplay changes, but they're aesthetically different, I suppose. So from the standpoint of the solo game, you saw how easy it was to operate. I really like that. I like that this game, which has a lot to consider, has a very simple to operate solo mode. There's essentially no decisions that you have to make for him besides which, the little bit you saw there as far as which cattle you got to pick up, or what's the cheapest worker, or whatever else. If the solo builds a building, he builds one based on some simple conditions right in front of you. So it's really easy to do, and it plays really quickly. It could be 10, 15 seconds, which is great because you really want to spend most of your time in this game, which has a lot of turns, figuring out what you want to do. And one of the toughest things I think about this game is how many buildings do I skip? How fast do I move through this glorified rondel to get out ahead? Because if you just try to hit every building along the way, you're not going to make very many, you'll make less deliveries than you could to those big cities. And that in and of itself is where you're scoring a lot of points. Plus, that's not going to generate you the money that you need. Plus, it's just going to slow down your whole engine. But all these buildings are kind of, enticing. A lot of them you meet the conditions. You want to do these things. You want to, hire people. You want to build up your cattle. You want to move your trains, etc. Build more buildings. And so there's a nice tension in this game as far as how much do I skip versus how much do I actually execute. And I like that. That's one of my favorite mechanisms about this game, is that it puts some tougher choices to the player, to figure that out. And I also love how the Automa doesn't let you, just it keeps a nice pace. As far as the times I've played it, I lost a little bit just by a couple of points in the standard edition, which I think is good because I actually would like to lose more than I like to win when it comes to an Automa. Because if you're always beating them or beating the recommended scores, then it's just not nearly as fun as it should be. So there's still a lot to discover here for me in the second edition as a solo player. You will like this game, I think, if you like rondels, if you like games that you kind of change the state by doing different things, by doing, whatever buildings you put out can change how you're going to run that loop. If you like combos, there's a lot of combos here because you go this, then this, then this, and that's really cool. There's also a little bit of push your luck, so to speak, with the bonus cards, which I didn't really go into too much, but basically you got the gist. If you end up playing the bonus card out of your hand for that little incremental action, that little bonus, then you have to meet it at the end so you can get victory points. But if you don't meet the bonus with the specific unique requirements, then you lose points. And so there's a nice amount of, all right, I hope I don't bite off more than I need to chew here or that I can chew before the end of the game so that I don't literally, it's not just about going, oh, I didn't get it. It's no, you're going to be penalized going backwards. So I like that. I also like the fact that the deck builder is here. I would say that the deck building mechanism is more subtle. You're not churning through your deck as much. You're probably going through it, maybe, it depends on how many stops you're making, I guess, but less than once per loop, okay, throughout. And again, it depends highly on the buildings that are out there. And the deck itself does not combo with anything. So it's not like, well, this cow can do this and this if I have these two together. No, you're just trying to get unique cows. Okay, so you're basically trying to have a variety in your deck. And then also the cows are worth victory points, so you want to have more, you want to spend the money on the ones that are more expensive, so you get more money for them when you sell them, and more victory points at the end. So all those things are good. Now, why would you not like this game? You might not like this game if you're easily overwhelmed by lots of, by too many decisions at once, so to speak, because it is a little bit overwhelming at times when you first figure it out. What in the world? What should I buy? What should I do? Which building should I put down? I can't quite see how that's going to go. Oh, I'm out of money. I need to have more people. So there is a little bit of angst that might cause people to not care for this type of game. You should not worry about it if you're like, well, I really want to, an easy to do solo, because I just told you the solo is great. It's fantastic. And you definitely feel like you're getting a full game because it moves everything around. It pulls those buildings out. It builds buildings for you. It moves the cow market. All that stuff happens. And so it does feel like a good solid two-player game. And then the other thing is it is a smidge on the longer side, I guess. I mean, so if you're not interested for an hour and a half or 2 hour game, then this might be not one for you. But I really struggled to say a lot of bad things about it. Now, the reason I sold my other copy was because when you play with 4 players or 3 players, it can take a long time. Too long, as far as I'm concerned, in this game. I would get a little bit exhausted and kind of tired of it, and it would go on for about a half hour longer than I wanted it to. But with the solo mode, that's wiped away. It's much quicker. It's right in the sweet spot that I like, 60 to 90 minutes for me, and I think that's good. So that's what I think about it. Do I recommend selling your first edition or bailing out on it just to get the second? No. If you have the first, I'd find a way, to at least simulate and print off the unofficial solo mode, which is, I think, very similar to this. If you don't have it and you're looking to jump in, the second edition is a great spot to start. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Whatever you decide to play in the future, I really hope you have a great time doing it. Take it easy, everybody. Thank you.